I'm an engineer. Planted. Jawohl!
The 5 stages to acceptance: anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
I'm on a sentimental journey inside and out of no return and no looking back or down. The conscientious objector to the orders in my mind. While leaving in the lurch and I'll take back what's mine. I'm on a mission in the destination unknown. An expedition in the desolation road where I'm a castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, down on my own. Castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, now I'm on my own. Lost and found, trouble bound. Castaway. All riding on that night train and just stolen cars. Dancing my nerves out on the boulevard. Spontaneous combustion on the corners of my mind. While leaving in the lurch and I'm taking back what's mine. I'm on a mission in the destination unknown. An expedition in the desolation road where I'm a castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, now I'm on my own. Castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, now I'm on my own. Lost and found, trouble bound. Castaway. I'm on a sentimental journey inside and out of no return and now looking back or down. A conscientious objector to the orders in my mind. While leaving in the lurch and I'm taking back what's mine. I'm on a mission in the destination unknown. An expedition in the desolation road where I'm a castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, now I'm on my own. Castaway, going at it alone. Castaway, now I'm on my own. Lost and found, trouble bound. Castaway, castaway.
Just get rid of the asshole that's at the end right there.
That's good. That's fine with me.
The GDP is also money and velocity.
It is. Thank you, Zoom. Don't you find it strange how everyone just jumped onto Zoom, not giving it a second thought that it's owned by China and TikTok for that matter? Oh, it's all of a sudden COVID hits, we're all using TikTok. Oh, it's just coincidence.
I feel like TikTok started ramping up earlier, but Zoom was really out of the blue. And it's odd also that Microsoft and Skype could not develop a better version in all the years that they had.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we could use Skype now, and no one used
Right.
Skype. Like, you can't modify Skype? I know I feel a bit more comfortable using Skype. And Zoom,
Yeah, no, I know.
Zoom is definitely a superior.
Yeah, it's a good product. It's just, it's a freaking Chinese spy app.
Yeah. How can no one see that this is like a weapon against the American people? Especially TikTok. There's no question.
Well, it's like these governments created the virus, and now they're selling us the cure and the solution.
Fix my headphones here. Because I have speakers that my mic is picking up your voice. So I'm trying to. Come on. Anyway. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Did I drop out there for a moment?
For a moment I wasn't hearing you. I don't know that you dropped out.
Well, do me a favor. Keep talking while I tinker with this.
I'm looking at the page, the Amazon page for a book called Pushing Rubber Downhill. About an Australian who takes a job as a rafting guide in deepest, darkest Africa.
What's this about?
Some Aussie guy who's sort of an adventurer. He rides across Australia on a motorbike chasing a girl. Finds himself in the tropical rainforests of northern Australia to the mountain rivers of British Columbia.
Cool.
The mighty Ugandan White Nile. Yeah. And he takes a job as a rafting guide in Africa.
Did you send me this already?
Nope. No, but he has a blog, and he talks about leaving Australia. I think he's either, I'm not sure if he's actually left Australia, but he's describing how difficult it is, or how difficult it was to get a passport in order to leave Australia, like years and years ago. That he had to be interviewed, and they asked him quite invasive questions about his intentions or whatever, and he had to go through checkpoint after checkpoint, and the border guards were extremely rude to him. He said it was kind of a shock because he figured it would be easy to leave his own country, right?
Well, KMG was talking about how he's unable to visit Canada and able to visit the United States, and what's his face Tom was talking about it too. I mean, when you try explaining that to the normie con, I go, you understand that me and you can't visit our neighbor, right?
Right.
Has that sunk in yet to you? No, not a big deal. No concern.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not a concern for them because they're vaccinated.
Oh, the boomer is the normie.
Yeah, well, I mean, my colleagues, millennials, they're all getting their booster shots, and most of them are getting sick.
Well, think about it. There's more normies in QAnon than our side of the Great Divide, which is frightening.
Yes, that's probably true. Although there's a lot of overlap, so I don't know if it can be cleanly separated.
Yeah, there is. There is overlap. You were right about that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the people on our side of the Great Divide, and a lot of them are just complete weirdos and goons.
We're a minority, son.
Yeah, we have to protect our people.
It's a fun minority to be in. Big town.
No more brother wars. Right.
Yeah.
MGTOW and the National Justice Party and
Right. Incel. Alt-right. Nick Fuentes.
Based Taliban.
And at the end of the day, what are we really doing? We're just shooting the shit. That's what most of these guys do. And yet just totally under attack. Just normal people just enjoying themselves, trying to make a laugh of the clown world. And we're just relentlessly attacked to no end.
Well, yeah, I think that's a reaction to Trump, because Trump proved that it is possible for somebody outside the mainstream, outside the political establishment, to come in and get themselves elected. Not that, Trump necessarily accomplished all that much, but he proved the concept, and that really freaked out the elite.
Yep, and where is he?
And they've been reacting ever since.
A lot of people still believing he's in the background making things happen.
Yeah.
We don't even know where he is. He's gone, dude. He went from being, his face plastered everywhere every single day for 4 years straight to being basically ghosted by the mainstream media.
Yeah. Well, they still talk about him. They're still afraid of him. I mean, they still run articles about, scary.
Yeah, that's
Trump
just
supporters.
to scare some fucking low IQ minority.
Yeah, probably.
That's really who's gonna eat that shit up.
The ever-present specter of 1-6.
You'd be surprised when I was working in Queens, how many immigrants are just petrified at Trump. They had a really warped view on what the guy was about, and a lot of the ways it was a good way of being afraid. Like, yeah, your ass is getting deported, son. But
you should be afraid,
right? I mean, the amount of people from the amount of Bengalis on Obamacare is horrifying.
Yeah.
You bring it in third worlders who have third world disease, and they go on taxpayer funded health care. It's really sad.
Right.
Really, really sad. And you see just regular Americans that have already been born here just struggling, and they probably even know how to get their hands on some type of medical procedure or whatever.
It's a travesty.
It's really sad. Well, the country's falling apart, and the economy has kind of been on the topic of most people's minds now. I just heard that it's like the inflation is 1% a month. I find that hard to believe. I really hope it's not true, because if it is true, we're actually going to a really dark place.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than 1%.
It's fucking crazy. Wait, pardon, say that again.
I think it's a lot more than 1%.
Shut up. No, it's fucking Santorini. Shut up.
Yeah, look, CNBC, U.S. consumer prices jumped 6.2% in October. Now that's year on year. So that's compared to October of 2020. So if you annualize that, it's probably that's about
it's
1.52%.
Listen to the banks and the government. It's not 6%. It's not. You just be quiet.
Okay.
Unicorn.
That's from the Labor Department.
I heard. Listen. I went walking around, the downtown tonight. My other friend has decided to come visit me after you have departed. He's going through some stuff, so he wanted to come and visit me, and
cool.
trying to plan some type of vacation in the early new year before everything collapses, if we have enough time. But yeah, so anyway, I was walking downtown with him, and everyone's out. Everyone's having a good time. The thoughts are all dressed up in their Spanx. They're fucking with their they're having their poached egg and sitting on furniture that's meant for a bird cage. looking
love it.
bougie, looking hot. Yeah, make it dirty right here. Yeah. So every look, normies out there living it up, dude. Still partying on. I mean, I went to do an oil change and had some coolant flushed out of my car. Haven't done it since I bought this car. Figured it was time to do it, and I got, I don't know, some type of high synthetic oil, which tends to last a really long time. That was $90 for a synthetic oil, 93 to be precise, and that was for some, one of those oils that make your car last for like 6,000 or 8,000 miles, which it does. It definitely holds to its value. Does its lifespan is far greater than some processed synthetic blend. But anyway, yeah, it was kind of expensive, to over $250 to just do a simple oil change and a coolant flush. And it's mostly in supplies, it's not in the labor.
Yeah. Well, what was that you told me about your insurance?
Oh yeah, good reminder.
That was crazy.
Yeah, Geico sent me a letter that my car insurance would go up from, I think I was paying like $175 for 6 months, jumped up to $600. And that's the same rate as it was in New York before I left. I was paying about $100 on car insurance for a vehicle that is 20 years old. And the tax assessed value of my car is under $1,900, according to the government. It's a little bit strange down here. I guess your car registration is based off of your what it's valued at, according to the Department of Statistics or whatever. But in New York, it's just a flat rate for everyone, and you do it every 2 or 3 years or something like that. And it was relatively no, it's cheaper down here. Oh, it lasts longer in New York. Anyway, so yeah, it jumped up to $600. I called Geico, asked them what's the deal, and they said because of the lack of vehicles available and cost of parts, we're increasing your insurance by how much? What's the percentage on that? Like 400%.
Yeah, I mean it's almost 4 times, right?
Yep. So I had to shop around, but that was unanticipated.
3.4.
Yeah.
3.4.
I wasn't expecting to pay that. And now just kind of just borrowing into the future, like many other people. That not necessarily me per se, but I could see the reason why people would start racking up their credit cards. Even myself, I'm like, oh, that's not going to be that price in another 6 months. I'm buying it now.
Right.
So that's what I started doing. Me and you were talking about canned meats recently. And I would think maybe in the next month and a half, I'll buy a few months worth, because hey, it's how much a ground beef, like the cost of ground beef now is equivalent to what a filet mignon was like 4 or 5 years ago. So
well, that's where it's going for sure. I mean, and they're saying turkeys are in short supply.
They doubled in price.
So yeah, I mean, if you can buy, and I mean, it's almost like too late for this, but I mean, if you buy a year's worth of food that's able to be stored, right, then you can just eat all next year on this year's food prices. Because this stuff is going to keep going up in price. Now, the limitation on that is, storage space and your current funds. And also, I mean, it's just not that easy to store meat unless you're buying, well, I guess with frozen meat you can, but you're going to need a lot of freezer space.
The problem is it's something that you can't, it's not an asset. Food is not a fucking asset. So, there's only so much you can keep carrying and holding on to. You're just going to wind up eating it. For me, the food storage thing is strictly for when it's apocalypto mode.
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy on this increasingly is that you should have I don't know, like a month's worth of food stored, something to get you through an emergency. Beyond that, I think you're fucked one way or the other. Because I mean, my reasoning is, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have a supply of food for over a month, you know, then it's the end times, right? I mean, then you're already in a world of shit. So even if you happen to have a basement full of food, let's say you're a super prepper and you stored 5 years worth of, you know, MREs and canned meat and everything else. Well, after a month of no food, there's going to be gangs going door to door and just executing people and stealing all their stuff.
Right.
So are you able to defend that stockpile? You know, some people can, maybe, but only in groups. Right. So now, do you have a neighborhood watch group? Do you have a community of people, a little, you know, secret militia that can defend your stuff in times of chaos? Probably
Do
not.
I know?
Right. So if you're just like a bug man living in your shoebox apartment in a city,
Simple bug man life.
yeah, I mean, so you have a spare room, so you fill it with what? You know, MREs.
You'll look like a fucking nut job.
Canned beans.
Imagine having company over for Thanksgiving. Oh, it's so good to see you, Aunt Phyllis, Uncle Marty. Come on in. Sit down. I got an Entenmann's.
Give me your coats. I'll put it in the back room.
Yeah, what's in that back room, Timmy? What's in the back?
Oh, it's a mess right now. I'm just doing some renovations.
Is that
keep it locked?
Is that thermite?
Are those cases of ammo?
Ooh, I see. Oh, I like the spaghetti and meatball MRE. That's
yeah.
Oh, package 2005. That's great.
I mean, the stuff is fascinating. Like, if you're into that kind of stuff, it's fun to compare MREs, and you know, you can really get into it. But you know, it costs a lot of money, and then this stuff expires. I mean, everything expires.
Did you know last year when I was having Christmas dinner with my family, I'm like, this is probably our last Christmas.
Last year,
that.
so
Yeah, I did say that last year.
during
Yeah.
COVID.
No, Coof and the election stalling.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be getting together with relatives for Thanksgiving and
Well, due to
Christmas.
COVID, now it's an excuse not to see relatives.
Well, right, which I feel terrible about, and I wouldn't have used that in the past, but now I'm kind of concerned that, you know, all these vaccinated people are walking around and, you know, they're
Coughing
basically like
and spreading their disease.
Well, right, and right, and the vaccine is moderating their symptoms, right, but it's not stopping them from spreading it. So they're basically like typhoid Marys now.
Oh God, I know so many people. I know at least 4 or 5 people that caught COVID this past week.
Really?
Yep, and they're fine. They're working through it. You know, it's certainly. I'll put it to this way: it is not what we had seen like in March or April of 2020. That's for
severity
sure.
wise.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think that I mean the virus mutated into a less lethal form, and we know how to treat it, you know, better than we did at first.
Well, I did.
Remember,
I did.
yeah, at first we were. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I caught a really wicked cold maybe about 3 weeks ago, right before you came to visit, and it fucked me up. Not gonna lie, I was out for 3 days, and that's the first time I ever experienced a cold of that severity in a long time.
I saw an interesting tweet that this guy was saying everybody he knows is getting some sort of respiratory illness. It's worse than a cold, not as bad as a flu, and it's not COVID.
Right. It's definitely an offshoot of the coof.
Well, how do you know that?
I don't know, because my lungs burned for 1 day, and I never had that happen before in my life.
Okay, yeah, but you don't know what that is. I mean,
I was just shitting my pants. I was like, "Oh, this is it. They got me. The Wuhan market got me. Damn it! This is
weaponized China virus.
Weaponized Wuhan." So listen. So I got an article here. It's from Wolf Street. It's a new one. It's from March 17th, 2021. Stock market leverage spikes in historic manner. Another what the fuck chart of a zoo that has gone nuts. The current craze that encompasses everything from sneakers and NFTs to stocks, where valuations don't matter because of widespread certainty that valuations will be even greater in a few days, and where folks are chasing lottery type returns supported by the Fed's interest rate repression and $3 trillion in asset purchases, and by the government trillions of dollars of handouts and bailouts. Well, in this perfect world, there is a fly in the ointment. Vast amounts of leverage, including stock market leverage. The stock market is hyperbolic. I mean, Bitcoin's what, over 60,000? Let me take a look at the chart here. I know one buddy that bought a shit coin, or whatever the fuck it is, and he bought a handful of this this altcoin.
Dogecoin.
No, it wasn't Doge this time. It was SHIB. And he made $18,000 off a $600 investment. This is not normal. This is bad. And, I think you read my article in the American Sun a few months back about Bitcoin and its underpinning, so to speak. I wrote that article with the help of Brooklyn Monk. But there's no Bitcoin has no value. There's no underlying asset. It's something that you're just trading for US dollars. It's just a huge Ponzi scheme / casino. So we're kind of in this phase where people are making money without actually having to put any type of labor into it. There's no output from the individual. It's just, timing, I guess.
I'm kind of amazed that people think that Bitcoin is like
it's got electrolytes.
It's got Bitcoin is the future. Bitcoin will overthrow the U.S. government. I mean, I don't know what these people think. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand it, because that seems to be a theme with these Bitcoin people, is that they have access to secret knowledge.
It's getting super close to breaking 70. It got up to 69 and change, and there's a big pullback. What was this? This is on the day chart. So this was... What's the date on that? Around the November 4th and 5th, it peaked out and it's pulling back, and the chart is very bullish, to say the least. And usually the altcoins follow behind it. I know I have Ethereum Classic, and I've been trading in and out of that for a period. And I think, look, why not? If you want to flush money down the toilet, ride that shit. Just hold on to it, because if inflation keeps happening, the coinage will continue to rise.
Well, I mean, it might be a good investment as a...
But it's not an investment. It's like, you see what I'm saying? We're distorting the term investment. What you really is, you're playing the Coinbase casino.
But that's an investment. I mean, yeah, okay, so you can call it a gamble, whatever word you want to use. But I mean,
yeah, if you
it's something that has the possibility of large returns, but it is a gamble like everything else. And look, if you make money off it, more power to you. I just think it's kind of a dumb thing to put your hope in.
It's gonna revolutionize the world, nigga.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Viva Vendetta.
I'm not even convinced that
Anonymous told me to get by the
so Bitcoin has a limit on how many coins can be mined, right? That's baked into the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the value is guaranteed to keep rising, because there's a limited supply of Bitcoin. You can't print more. Okay. That seems problematic to me, though. I don't know, if there's only a limited supply of it. I mean, is that the case with any other currency? It's not the case with gold or silver, right? You can keep mining it.
Lucky. Evergrande.
So you have to own ever smaller fractions of a coin, right, in order to preserve the value. Whatever. I'm not a monetary person. I don't really understand how it works. I'm sure some of your commenters will attack me for even daring to bring this up. But it seems to me that you need to keep building these server farms to mine the coins, right? at some point you run out of coins to mine, and then what happens? I don't know what happens next.
Here,
But there's going to be a finite number of coins in the world, and then you can't mint any more. So I mean, how can the world start using Bitcoin if there's only a finite number of coins and it's inadequate, to meet the demand?
I'm gonna let's view. Let me see. Just going back to my article, I wrote this June when Bitcoin. What did I write it here? I was just covering some of the scandals surrounding Bitcoin, the crypto craze. All right, here's a good part of it. What about cryptocurrency being a safe asset when the market crashes or during corrections? Go look at Bitcoin stock chart when the scandemic hit February and March of 2020. Did Bitcoin go to the moon? Question mark. No, it crashed on its face from $10,375 to $4,000. It followed the overall market trend. At one point, I was using Bitcoin as a future market indicator for the Dow Jones and industrial average, or S&P 500, and the altcoins. But this is no longer the case. So I wrote that because there was a correlation between what Bitcoin was doing and how the rest of the market would do the following day. People pull cash out of all markets during a crisis. They do not put money into it. Gold and silver have never been traded during economic collapse. Governments just issue new forms of tenure. And if we were ever to go back to trading gold and silver, we would be dealing with much bigger problems that are unimaginable. We can conclude that Bitcoin and altcoins have no underlying asset value, and the only value of them is the current market price. We are faced with the paradox of cryptocurrencies. If it has no value, it is not recognized as a legitimate form of currency or isn't a good way of exchange, then what exactly is the point of having it? That leaves us with the sad fact it's nothing more than a stock that you have the ability to convert to US dollars. If it couldn't be converted to US dollars, it would be worthless.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can't use it unless you convert Bitcoin into dollars first, right? I mean, that's how you make purchases in the real economy.
Well, I think people are also desperate.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just throwing caution into the wind. What little savings they have, you can just ride it for a few days. But again, if you need that money, if that cash is needed for whatever reason, and Bitcoin crashes, you're pretty much fucked. I mean, again, this is shit everyone should know already. But I kind of want to go back to this article because it is frightening. I mean, the margin debt from just a year ago and what we're going through, basically. I don't think the average American really truly can grasp the situation. And you look at like some of these things like the infrastructure bill, but it's all social programs. It's all jobs that do nothing for the economy. I don't think people realize that. Brittany, the 22-year-old assistant counselor at the fucking federal prison, her salary is going to come out of this infrastructure package. Like, that's not helping me. That's not helping anyone.
Yeah, and all this money printing shows up in the form of price inflation. Of course, inflation by definition is any increase in the money supply. Well, what did we start doing last March?
Money printing go burn.
Well, exactly, right? So, and apparently it takes, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years for an increase in the monetary supply to show up in price inflation, and that's what we're seeing now. It's hitting now. And it's not going to stop until we stop the money printing. And even then, it's not going to stop for another year and a half or 2 years, right? So, I mean, the economists and the experts, and the media are trying to pretend that the inflation that's happening in the economy is due to some other cause, right? It's always like our fault, right? Oh, it's Americans' fault for being so greedy. It's because you want to buy so many things. Not because we printed, like $8 trillion in the last 2 years. I just hope,
You're going.
optimistically that we have high inflation for a couple of years and then it settles down. I'm really hoping we don't have hyperinflation and or economic collapse.
Well, I think they pulled back on the word transitory inflation.
Yeah, we're not really hearing that these days, are we?
No. And if you're giving out, if you just, it's really okay. Rewind. When I saw this happening, and I told people, "Hey, look, inflation's gonna, skyrocket," they were so confident that I was wrong when I told them that. And I was just thinking, like, wait a second. I mean, I didn't. I'm not all. I actually did very poorly in economics for various reasons. A lot of weed smoking, 19 years old. Things you don't really give a shit about. But the one thing that, like, the first day is if you increase the money supply, prices go up. That was like the first thing off the bat that was learned. Like in the first 45 minutes of my class, if everyone gets $1,000, it's as if no one gets $1,000. And I remember that clear as day for the little I can remember of that class. I was like, okay, that makes sense, because if everyone gets $1,000, what's going to happen? Things go up in price. And initially, because we live in this society where we expect things to happen automatically, it's got to happen now, right? So when they gave out that helicopter money back in the spring of 2020, I mean, I got my $1,200, right? Everyone got their $1,200. When you ran out and spent that, or paid off some of your debt, which I think most of that $1,200 wound up going to is credit card debt. But just things will automatically increase in price. But we were expecting those increases like a month later, 2 months later, even 6 months. We're now seeing the damage from the coup.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the shitstorm of consequences that is descending upon us right now. And this is very predictable. I saw it as well. And I was very upset when they passed, the initial COVID rescue bills. I said, this is madness. This is far too much money. We don't have this money. Yeah, how about this? How about we not shut down the economy?
That you always go back to that.
You
just open everything up. You just open things up.
I mean, look, once we shut things down, I guess you had to kind of bail out the economy because, you put all these people out of work, right? So, you had to pay them stimulus checks as compensation.
But we
should never put them out of work in the first place.
No, we are. We're in this together. You will own nothing and be happy.
It's, dude, I mean, and it's not, and we haven't recovered from that because people won't acknowledge, they refuse to acknowledge that it was a mistake, that they were suckered, that the whole thing is a scam. And so they're doubling down on the madness, right? And they think, well, we have to get back to normal by doing X, Y, and Z. So they've accepted this false framing that normal is a privilege that we can only achieve by, following certain rules.
You will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
By the way, for all the listeners out there, the whole you will own nothing and be happy, the advertisement looks just like Frank Burton.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for face doxing me.
An Arab version.
Yes. If you saw me, you'd think I was that guy telling you that you will own nothing.
And be a mystery meat fucking Egyptian slash Czech.
I'm actually just looking at a commercial from Germany where they're basically trying to comfort people who are facing power outages. And, because the solar and wind power are not working. And they're having big power outages in Northern Europe, this winter, or at least they're anticipating it. And so,
don't worry, the Somali tranny is going to fix it.
Well, no, I mean, that's exactly what the commercial says. It's an old German lady and her power is out. She's cold, shivering. And then they show her making like some kind of heating device out of candles and a flower pot. Very ingenious. And she's kind of warming herself, by this flower pot. And then her door knocks and she opens the door and there's like a white woman and a Somali man.
There you go.
And they come in and I guess they're supposed to be helping her or something. They're like social workers, but it looks like they're just kind of sitting next to her on the couch.
And then he pulls out a machete.
That's the part they don't show.
It's fucking European. It's a Nordic boomer. Nordic boomer.
Teutonic boomer.
Oh, that's a whole demographic of people that are also totally out of tune with reality. I see so many correlation between boomerism and Europe. It's even worse in those countries because they have even a bigger welfare state, and those boomers really live high on the hog of the post-war growth, especially in Germany and England. I mean, most people I know that are 55 and older in Europe do really well, or are sitting on a nice treasure chest of goodies, boomer goodies.
Oh yeah, well, and then they settled, America. That's where the Scandicuck phenomenon comes from. The Minneapolis, Minnesota socialists.
So
the Cuck Belt, as the Z-Man calls it.
You put out a great show today. I should put that in the show notes.
Yeah, 2 hour.
By the way, my Cash App, guys, come on. I don't want to hear no hand rubbing out there.
What are you talking about?
Some guy sent me $400 in Ripple coin, which is great. In Ripples. Said a big fan of the show. Been listening for years. Donated some Ripple coin.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was really, really kind of him. It's doing really well, so I'm grateful for that. Anyhow, so margin debt. Margin debt, the amount that individuals and institutions borrow against their stock holdings as tracked by FINRA as its member brokerage firms, is just one indication of stock market leverage. They're just borrowing against your own stock. That's pretty crazy. In February, margin debt jumped by another 15 billion to 813 billion. Over the past 4 months, margin debt has soared by 154 billion, a historic surge to historic highs. Compared to February last year, margin debt has skyrocketed by 269 billion, or by nearly 50% for all. Another what the fuck that the zoo has gone nuts. So they're showing some crazy numbers here. And the banks make money off giving out this debt too. There's some huge fees charged to these institutions that want to borrow against. And it's just more money manipulation. We're obviously a country that's overfinanced and under-industrialized. And the plan has been since 1991 to, bring down the United States and pull up the third world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I read some commentary by, it might have been one of those like Reddit posts or, 4chan or something, but this foreigner was complaining about how like everybody in America seems to have a new car. What's up with that?
It's true.
And I actually had this experience that a boomer advised me, I have a car that was made in, 2013. It's a really nice car. And he told me, you should really think about buying a new car. I'm like, why? The car I have works fine. He's like, yeah, but you want a, bigger, stronger, safer car, newer. I'm like, yeah, okay. But then, I'm going to be doing, monthly payments. Right. And, basically his reasoning was, well, yes, but then you don't need to pay for repairs as often. And, car prices are just going up and up. So, it's like an investment, this and that. I'm like, yeah, but why would I take on more debt? I like not having debt. Whatever happened to that? I mean, didn't that used to be an American virtue, an American value that you don't buy things you can't afford, you live within your means? Remember that phrase, live within your means? Well, live within your means, includes not assuming debt. If you have debt, you are by definition not living within your means.
Right. If you're in some form of debt, it means you're living beyond your means. Period. Full stop.
I mean, it's a tautology, right? It's by definition. So why would I cannot afford to buy a whole new car and own it free and clear. I would need to finance it.
Well, I can tell you, this is the second car. Anyway, I'll just tell what car. I have a Lincoln LS. It's not a big deal. I can tell what people that I drive. So it's a 20-year-old Lincoln, right? And there's the second Lincoln I've owned. I had the previous Lincoln LS for over 10 years. Sat as a flower pot when I went abroad. Came back, threw new fluids in it and a new set of tires, and it was good to go. So I was quite grateful for that. For its extended period, just sitting in my parents' driveway, being a flower pot, it managed to start up and run without hesitation. And that was kind of when I bought that car, I already kind of knew that was a type of car where you could do something like that. It's got a V8, a very small V8, one of its kind. Fords they depreciate rapidly. And that didn't bother me. And again, thinking like a boomer. When I bought that car, boomer goes, "Oh, trade in value on that car sucks. Oh, if you try selling that car, you're not going to get anything for it." Okay, that's the way you're thinking. What I'm thinking is I want this car to last me for as long as humanly possible. Right? Because I bought it outright, saved up a lot of money. I was like 23 at the time when I bought it. And I was like, no, I'm going to drive this fucking thing into the ground. I remember when I was telling you when you were going car shopping, I was like, into the fucking ground. That's been something my uncles, it was something that my uncles always told me. And my uncles, they owned junkyards and they did enduros. They traveled around the United States doing the demolition derbies, and they call them enduros too. So there's demolition derby, there's enduros, there's a figure eight. My uncles had driven probably well over 1,000 cars, and so did my father. He, to a lesser extent, my dad was doing it too with them. And so I always would consult them about buying vehicles since they've driven so many cars, and they always said, into the fucking ground. You drive that thing until the wheels fall off. Just change your fluids and just keep driving it. Don't put a single dime into it. Right? When you're in your early 20s, you're like, oh, fuck it.
Dangerous.
What do you mean?
Their advice sounds a little bit dangerous. I mean,
when they mean into the ground, what they're referring to is you just drive it until the wheels fall off. I'm being hyperbolic. You don't actually drive till the wheels fall off. You drive until the engine blows or a part of the car is too expensive to fix. And that's basically it. The diminishing return aspect of it, where it's fully depreciated, and you're going to wind up putting new parts into it. And the
you're basically milking, right?
You're milking it, right?
You're milking all the value out of it that you can before you move on to another car, instead of selling it off as a depreciated asset.
and just keep buying new car after new cars every 4 years. Right. The whole idea behind a car lease is that, well, you get sick and tired of a car after driving it either 2 to 4 years, and you can trade it in and you can just get another one. You never actually own it. You will own nothing and be happy, because with a lease, you don't own it, right? And many people now drive cars that they don't actually own outright. So getting back to my car, I bought the Lincoln LS. I was like, okay, even though it's really bad on gas mileage, it's a Ford. Car parts are really cheap. Right. The starter was $100. I can get a new one for like 150 or 175. Right. Of course, on every car, there is some component that costs a lot of money. Many cars, it's transmissions. For my car, it was the suspension and the transmission. On other cars, it would be doing a timing belt or maybe the axle, or if you get into a car accident, the quarter panel is a huge amount of money. There's always some type of component to any car you may purchase that is kind of above the average price of something, unless you buy like a Hyundai or Toyota. So anyway, bought the car, lasted 10 years. I go ahead and a Boomer was selling my car, same year, same everything, different color, with 100,000 miles less. So I'm like, I'm offloading the car that I had 10 years. I'm buying the same exact car. Why am I doing that? Because I already know the ins and out of that vehicle. I already know what's going to fail, what's going to cost a lot of money. I know how to handle it. I'm totally experienced and trained driving this vehicle for so long. So I said, why not? I'm going to get a car that's, the same exact one, with little to no miles, which was fantastic, for an amazing deal when everyone else it can't find a car. And for me, I was fortunate. I met this Boomer through Craigslist because I needed a car part. So when I went and met up with him, he sold me the part, and I go, "Oh, do you have a Lincoln LS?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Yeah, it's got 35,000 miles." And I thought to myself, I'm like, wait a second. 35. You mean 350,000 miles? After all, it's a car that's 20 years old. He goes, no, 35,000 miles. It just sits in my garage. It was for my wife. My wife doesn't like it. She just takes it to the grocery store back and forth. I'm like, you willing to sell it? He goes, well, how much? Offered him a really good price. He took it, and the rest is history. So the point is, the point of this story is that there are deals out there. And one of my philosophies, getting the whole material aspect and, consumerism, my philosophy has always been buy something really nice once and make sure it lasts for a really long time. So my PC's from 2012. The motherboard is obsolete. I know that. But at the time in 2012, my PC was state of the art. So every time I go and get it worked on and serviced, they always tell me, well, it's still really good for 2021. It's obviously obsolete, but it can still do everything you want it to do. And obviously there's certain video games I can't play, but I really don't give a shit. It's got good, it's got a good video card, average, nothing special. And in fact, I wanted to upgrade my video card, and my video card is worth more now than it was when I purchased it in 2017. So this just gives you an idea where we're going along in the economy, because they're trying to drive, to my shock, and probably to your shock also, Devil, and it goes against my own predictions and my own philosophy on the whole, neoliberal hyperconsumption ideas and theories that I've always kind of pontificated on during my live streams, is that they're now driving consumerism into the fucking ground. And that's alarming, because what most people on this side of the Great Divide have always discussed is that they want to just grind us into the dirt for GDP.
Right. Well, no, but that sort of ended with COVID, right?
Yep.
And I mean, I always thought, we're becoming ever more hedonistic and decadent and this and that. But actually, we found out as soon as COVID started, people don't even care about those things. They allowed their fear to override their desire, their hedonism, basically, right? Fear conquered hedonism. And now we're left with what? I mean, nothing. Right. It seems like the ideal state of modern American man and woman is to just kind of be this atomized, particle that consumes products that were purchased off a screen. Which that is a form of consumption, but travel is way down. Right. And social life has been, gutted. The idea, I don't know what the youngins are doing today, but are people still going to clubs and raves and stuff like that? I don't know. I guess they are, but it's got to be much less than before.
I'm looking at the raves, by the way. I'm looking at the misery index in the United States. I don't know what that really necessarily basing this off of unemployment and inflation. Okay, inflation was much higher than unemployment, as unemployment fell to 4 point. It's not 4.6. What's the real numbers you think on unemployment? So I reckon it's like a quarter, 20-25%. And like if you went to a Travis Scott concert, chances are you're on welfare. Is that fair to say?
I'm not familiar with Travis Scott.
I mean, dang.
Was that the guy where there's the stampede?
Yeah.
Well, those are mostly Zoomers, right?
Yeah, it was Zoomers with
where like 8 people had heart attacks or something.
Deracinated mystery meats at a Travis Scott
deracinated people who were jabbed, who were having heart attacks.
Oh, I never even thought of that correlation.
Dude, weren't there like 8 heart attacks at that concert? That was the whole thing. That was the whole story. Is that all these people were dropping dead from heart attacks. These are people in their teens and 20s mostly, right? How often is it that a 25-year-old has a heart attack? Especially 8 of them in the same group of, I mean, okay, if you have an enormous crowd, of 60-year-olds like the, 1/6 protest where there were like, whatever, 200,000 people and they were mostly boomers, right? The Boomerwaffen. Yeah, and like a couple of them had heart attacks. I think like one of them died of a heart attack and, another died of stroke or something. And of course, those were counted among the 1/6 deaths, right? The deadly riots at the Capitol. But actually, whenever there's a large crowd of old people, it's normal for 1 or 2 of them to die, right? It's not normal for young people to die in a crowd. And this was a stampede, right? Or something, I think. I mean, that was the claim initially. But these people weren't being trampled to death. They were having heart attacks.
Oh, I was on the assumption that it was a small stampede.
There might have been a stampede, but that shouldn't have been enough. I mean, that doesn't cause a heart attack. Do you see?
Yeah, you suffocate to death.
Yeah, or yeah.
That's how everyone died during the stampede in Cambodia at on the island, Diamond Island. And I've uploaded that video of Diamond Island before I did my chat with Tom Stapleton about Thailand deadly destinations, and I got such a backlash from some of my viewers for uploading that video. The point of that video I uploaded was to show you that it's dangerous. There's stampedes in Asia, and they're like, "Oh, it's morbid. You shouldn't have posted that." I actually, I found it to be quite telling about the psychology of some people. I mean, I've been to rock concerts where I've almost fainted from exhaustion.
Right. But these were not people. But these were not people who passed out. These are people who had heart attacks.
Normal.
Heart attacks.
Get the jab. Get it.
I was pretty encouraged to see that the federal court.
Well, the narrative is destroyed. It's out of. I mean, all these people. The only people now I know that are getting the 3rd jab are really just deluded boomer.
Okay, I mean that's your experience. That's fine. I'm telling you, the millennials in my orbit, they're rolling up their fucking sleeves.
Get it.
And they're getting sick. I mean, I had a coworker. I'll sort of.
It's just poisoning themselves. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
No, the guy he's probably about my age, right? And he messaged all of us and said, I just got I'm going to be going offline. I'm going to be going offline for a while. I just got the booster and it really threw me for a loop. Then other people chimed in. One guy's kind of older, probably in his 40s or something. He's like, yeah, the booster really whacked me hard over the weekend. I'm just like, dude, what are you guys doing?
No, it can't get it. What are you waiting for, sweetheart? You gotta get your third booster. I'm like, why don't you lose 50 pounds before you tell me to get that thing?
Yeah, and the second guy was a bit overweight, so yeah, maybe he should focus on that.
Hey, excuse me. I see you watch CNN quite a bit. Can you please tell me what the majority of commercials you see on CNN are? Just
I don't get
please.
it. What? Pfizer?
Of course.
Yeah.
Restless leg syndrome. What a fucking joke. Restless leg syndrome. It's
Is it?
called you've been on your feet all day and you did 20,000 steps. No shit. Your legs are going to be shaking before you fucking pass out.
I thought it was more severe than that. I thought it was like uncontrollable twitching at night, middle of the night.
Have you ever seen that in the general public before?
Well, I remember seeing stories about it.
Is there that
ago.
big of a demographic that you need to put that fucking commercial that costs millions of dollars onto CNN? I mean, really think about it.
That I don't know.
It's for the person. I think I have a problem. I do. I don't want to die. Restless leg. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, you wonder. I got to be honest. I may be becoming a hypochondriac with everything that's going on because I feel like I've had one sort of mysterious medical ailment after another. And I don't even know. Like it might be in my head. I mean, it's definitely physical. Well, okay, they're definitely physical.
You're being a what are you?
Kvetching.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I definitely threw my back out at one point. So I have some kind of sciatica. Sciatica, but then I've had like exhaustion and headaches and feeling weird and breathing this and chest that. It's very strange, and I wonder how much of that is just this ambient feeling of panic in the air.
You need a
that's
prostitute
seeping into my psyche.
No, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. But the thing is, you're not alone. I'm sure most of our listeners also have those feelings of uncertainty, anxiety. Because again, let's go back to Boomer. I've been just on a Boomer rant for 6 months. I cannot stand.
Clearly,
I really
I'm letting
truly
you boom.
can't.
By the way, I'm letting you boom.
My rose bushes.
Gotta let the boomers boom.
It's well, Boomer he got the house, got his 401k. He has nothing to fear. No worries besides COVID. That's his greatest fear. Meanwhile,
and heart disease and cancer. And
well, here's the thing.
All the other shit that people used to die of.
People under the age of 40 are in a state of what is it when you just freeze up?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, they're just kind of like a thousand yard stare on everything that's been happening, especially working class males. Because okay, so you think of it like this: let's look at the demographics here. Okay, the guys that are worried and concerned, the red-pilled community throughout the United States, even those that may not consider themselves red-pilled but are somewhat enlightened to the situation that's at hand. These people, who the fuck is texting me, throwing my rhythm off here? Oh no. You have Boomer, who is really just being a drain on the young. And that was part and parcel of what Obamacare was. Obamacare was the idea is that the young are going to subsidize the old because they're taking such a hefty chunk out of the economy and not putting back into the economy, right? So there's that demographic sucking the life out of us. You obviously have the ruling class, the oligarchs. We don't really have to get that much into them. So there's them. And then you have people that are just generally on welfare. And it's like a vice. If you ever read None Dare Call It Conspiracy, there's a whole chapter on this pressure from above, pressure from below, and just squeezing the middle class through all different means, in which is which is obviously happening on all fronts, whether it's the cultural war, heritage America, the church, okay, your job, COVID, your wife. It's all against you. It's the seventh layer of hell we are living in right now. Okay. And you have a large swath of the population who are also in despair. You have a huge swath of the population in a state of despair, where there's kind of like this 5 stages of acceptance, and there's a good amount of people that are young that are attending a Travis Scott concert because YOLO and I have no future and everything sucks.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you ever feel in despair and you're a millennial, just look at the Zoomers and you'll feel better.
I mean, they don't even have. What do they have? What do they got?
I don't know what they have. I don't think they have very much. I'm not even sure what they think they have.
Well, they have the internet. Meta, you'll own nothing and be happy.
I guess.
Meta.
I mean, I've met some Zoomers that are quite smart and savvy, but
they're in a state of panic and anxiety. The anxiety is numbing. The anxiety is all. It encompasses you.
Look at what they've been subjected to with COVID. I mean, I guess the Zoomers are mostly in high school and college now. But I mean, they've been kind of at the eye of the storm of restrictions, and now being forced to get jabbed, and they really have no choice, right? I mean, unless they're adults, which many of them are not. So their parents are forcing them to get the jab, or they're out of college. Maybe they're, 2 years into it, right? And now they're forced to get the jab, or they have to, they have to quit, right? And all right, so maybe you get it and nothing happens, or maybe you get it and you have a heart attack and die at a fucking concert. And everybody's going crazy around you, and you have no real role models. The millennials are just useless.
Yeah, at least I had role models. Some of them of my generation, some of them of the yonder. And then where do you find your role models? That's the other thing. And for me, the role models I looked up to when I was a teenager, they've all gone, they've gone woke to one extent or another. Effeminate, makeup, pro LGBT. A lot of the Hollywood male action characters, all down with woke, all down with the vaccines, except for a boy Mel, right? So there's really not that much for you to look up to, because they've taken it all away from you. I noticed this trend like 15, 20 years ago. I'm like, oh, Tom Cruise again. He's 55. Well, now he's 60, right? And he's still doing Top Gun movies. Harrison Ford is 80. Michael Douglas has to be 80 also. I reckon they were born in the 40s, some in the 50s.
Right. And instead of being heroes, right? I mean, there are some exceptions. Like Eric Clapton now is really speaking out against the madness. He actually is getting attacked because he did a protest song against the COVID restrictions. And he's mostly, I think it's because he had a really bad reaction to the jab. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to play again. But for the most part, the boomers are just falling in line with this totalitarian, anti-human agenda. And I'm not only talking about COVID. I mean, it's everything. It's globalization. It's the climate change agenda. And it's a betrayal of their art, and it's a betrayal of, everything we admire about these people, right? You think about Harrison Ford and the characters he plays in his movies, right? Well, is he speaking out against anything that's going on? Is he rebelling in real life? No, of course not. He's conforming. And so we have no role models among the boomers, with maybe a few exceptions. The millennials are too young to have really accomplished anything. And the Zoomers are just lost. right? And the Zoomers don't even have the benefit of like history because they're not. I mean, are Zoomers even being educated about history at all? I'm not sure.
No, they know nothing about history. It doesn't pertain to them, and especially of women in universities, the last thing they're ever going to take is a history class because it doesn't pertain to them.
Yeah. But I mean, that's all we have.
History is not important. And what are they going to focus on? They're going to focus on women in history, and it's always going to come to the view of being fucking oppressed, and Joan of Arc and all these other fucking retards that no one gives a fuck about. I like when Google promotes these women of color, and like I'm supposed to know, oh, you don't know who this person is,
right? Yeah, how could you not know who this obscure
their
black
wiki
figure?
Their wiki page is only 200 fucking words. Like, give me it's like
there's somebody who worked on a steamboat, on the Mississippi River in 1933. It's like, we all need to know who this person is.
Universities are still cranking out, and the people that are attending college right now and the parents that are putting them through it are all going to be far left, okay, delusional, totally white, and totally ignoring the underpinnings of what's happening around them.
Here's a question, right? So I see a lot of millennials, wherever they go. So apparently, like everywhere in the world has like a John Lennon shrine.
I believe it. I totally believe it. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, not like a literal shrine, but it'll be like a wall, plastered with like whatever. Imagine, and like millennials do pilgrimages to these places, and they take photos of it and post it on Instagram or whatever. It's like, I'm really confused here. What do they see in this? What is special about this wall? Why is John Lennon so special?
He's like a Jesus. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that boomer music too? Like why do millennials? I just, the whole thing is very puzzling to me.
It's a non-violent philosophy, I think it is.
No, but that's okay. But millennials don't. But millennial liberals don't advocate non-violence. They advocate extreme violence against people that they hate.
Just conform, man.
They advocate Antifa. They advocate wars for democracy, Antifa, and kill the unjabbed.
Imagine, I just love it. I was never really into the Beatles, to be honest with you. My family is. My mom. My mom actually just got done reading a book on John Lennon's life.
God, how is it that interesting? I find the Beatles. I find them completely uninteresting.
No, they are probably the greatest rock band of all time. Either them or the Rolling Stones. I'm not going to deny that. But their rise to fame is quite subjective. The what is it? The British invasion, as they call it. Like, what the fuck is that? Invasion. And all these women throwing fits just to meet them, screaming.
I think that really was. No, I know. Well, that started the whole thing. I mean, I think that was the beginning of the end. I think their parents were correct in being very wary of this. Although, didn't Elvis was before that, right? He kind of started that.
Yeah, no, he's before the Beatles.
So, I mean, I think there was a wisdom.
You ain't no just fucking throwing his dick around.
Yeah, right, thrusting his hips, and then the girls are just like passing out and stuff. It's like, well, actually, if I were a parent and I were seeing that for the first time, I'd be quite concerned.
And when did drugs become mainstream in American society? The Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, Lonely Hearts, ushered in drug culture.
Right. So another thing that wrecked America.
Yep. That all started in the mid 1960s.
I mean, it's literally sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, it's just what the stereotype says.
Right.
I mean, I feel like, what's his name? All in the Family. Archie Bunker on his Lazy Boy. just railing against the world. But like, he was right.
Yeah, I was right. So
it
was 1967 is when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts came out. So I was on target with that statement. Go me. It was funny though when my mom got done reading the book. It was a huge book. It was like 800 pages that she was reading, a whole huge biography on it. My mom was like, everyone behind John Lennon was a Berg and a Stein. I just started laughing so hard.
John Lennon was a what?
There were all the people that supported and helped manage, and all of his basically his cast behind him.
Gotcha.
And the question is who was controlling who? Was it his doing, or was it the people, the puppet masters behind him? And you could see so many bands that are again all caught up in the woke hysteria. Get your vaccines. Even Dave Grohl. That's how they are. That's their persona that you see. Steve Van Zed of E Street Band, who plays with Bruce Springsteen. There's also Vito on The Sopranos. He made a statement: the Bruce Springsteen that you see is not the same Bruce Springsteen, in his personal life. So in his personal life, I'm sure it's a whole different type of person. And I would assume most of these people are either complete degenerate, pedos, or they're just regular people just putting on an act. I remember reading a book about like the last year, the Clash were a band, and Joe Strummer was putting up this big thing, anti-drug, like really against people doing drugs and shit. And then, when he gets off from doing a show, he's, smoking weed or whatever, doing the complete opposite. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
That's what a lot of these, the people that the media puts out there for us to swallow when,
Sure.
But yeah, Steinenberg's behind Lennon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What happened?
Yeah, I mean,
there you are.
No, nothing. I'm just looking at the VAERS reports now since I brought up the issue of the jabs. I decided to do my periodic check of openvaers.com. So now we're up to 18,400.
Oh yeah, we're getting shut down again.
Deaths.
Europe's going back under. I mean, there's mass protests around the world.
It's just extraordinary. I mean, it's a lot of people. You and I were talking about this the other day, but it's like the normie forgets. Because they see, the normie looks around and they see, most people aren't wearing masks, and it looks like the restrictions are being lifted, and we're slowly going back to normal. Did you forget that Canadians are not allowed to leave their country unless they're jabbed? Did you forget that Americans are not allowed to visit Canada unless they're jabbed? Did you forget that children are being jabbed with a dangerous, experimental substance in California? I mean, these things are happening now, right? I mean, the whole world is being turned into a prison. Australia, the head of the Queensland Australian Medical Association was on TV sneering about how the unvaccinated are going to be completely miserable and lonely. He's like, you'd be crazy. You'd be crazy not to get vaccinated. Oh, you'd be denied employment, and you won't be able to travel anywhere or see any kind of entertainment. And, you're not going to be able to get a doctor's note either, because we'll be scrutinizing those very, very carefully. And there's only one choice to make here. I mean, if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to be very lonely indeed.
A license for that one.
You got a license for that?
You love that one.
Oi, bruv.
Oh, by the way, I love your new Twitter handle.
Oh, what's that?
The
Bronze Age.
Bronze Age expat.
It's a commemoration of Bronze Age pervert, peace be upon him. Who was banned.
Inflation, all I ever wanted. Inflation.
I'm not really. Just the second tweet on my timeline is a retweet of Jordan Schachtel, Elmo's first heart attack.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
No, I've tried to stay off Twitter recently because I think it's bad for my mental health. I mean that sincerely.
I just do it for fun. I have more funny things and interesting stuff than politics or stuff. Politics and
Mhm.
current events. I got one called Flag Meanings. So this, puts a flag up and tells you the meaning behind each flag.
Okay.
A few writers. Let's see, bands I
I think
enjoy.
the problem with Twitter is that it serves up so many interesting things in such a condensed format.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, it's too much fun. Yeah, it's overstimulating to the brain. I mean, it's more than just
it's American culture in a nutshell. Really, what Twitter's done is become it amplified the more hedonistic, narcissistic attitudes that have been kind of the norm of the United States since its foundation. I really truly believe that, and Twitter has become that outlet for the inner Americana, that whole ethos, whatever you want to call it.
No, I think it's absolutely true. I mean, it's a
It's
rarefied essence.
It's tag you're it also. That's the other thing Twitter does is tag you're it. Everyone make fun of Alec Baldwin when he killed someone.
Yes,
and everyone loves it.
Yeah, it's very conducive to bullying. It's very it's very snarky. It's
Snark. Right, and the left eats up the snark, and then the Republicans are like, "Arr, arr, arr." It's just the outrage
Who
porn.
was that?
That's my rhino. My Romney McCain, the types that listen to Ben Shapiro. Oh my God! Oh no!
Right. The Dems are the real.
Look what the tranny did! Look what the tranny did! Oh my God! It's just, it's very crass and really just immature. So immature the way Americans act.
Twitter is like the id of America.
Is the what?
The id of America.
Oh, yeah, it's a good way of putting it. That's a good way.
It's America's id. And that's not something you want to be immersed in day after day. Jeez, just this guy, Nightmare Vision at God Close My Eyes.
Yeah, I know Nightmare Vision. He writes for the American Sun.
Oh, does he?
Yep.
He's hysterical. Jeez.
Yeah, he's really good.
George Floyd pillows.
Saint Floyd. George Floyd pillows.
You know what I'm talking about. Those memes I sent you a long time ago.
Well, what's digressing here for a moment? What do you think of the outrage in Virginia, New Jersey? Like, it's not. I understand the excitement, but you realize you had a stolen election, right? Can we go back to that for a moment? Can we?
Well, are you referring to the presidential election?
Right.
Well, right. It's almost like the establishment let the Republicans win in Virginia, to distract them from the fact that the presidential election was blatantly stolen. But so it goes. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, I guess it's time to move on now, right? It's a year. It really is a year after the fact. That's amazing to me. Actually, that's quite scary because I remember that so well, like it was yesterday. But yeah, I mean, we didn't do anything about it, and it's over. And you notice how you keep seeing these stories. Like if you ever go to, any of these right-wing sites. What's the one I'm thinking of? Well, the name escapes me right now, but they're always reporting on like the latest developments on the audit in Arizona, or
Pennsylvania or something. Gateway Pundit is the one. And it's just like, yeah, dude, that's not. I mean, I'm glad that they're moving forward with that, just for the record. But there is no chance that this election is going to be overturned a year after the fact. I mean, look, even if they had a smoking gun, definitive proof that the election was stolen, well, so what? So is Biden going to say, oh, you got me there? All right, I'll step down now. Let's recall Trump from Mar-a-Lago to take the White House. No, that's not going to happen. Summon Trump.
Oh yeah, I mean Tim Kelly had this boomer who was sounded a little bit like a Q dude with his hopium. He even used the term hopium. He says, I mean, I'm not trying to peddle hopium and shit like that, but he was pointing out some of the positives to the Trump administration. A lot of it we've overlooked in some ways, but my God, it's like it was funny because Tim Kelly was just like biting his lip the entire time. Oh yeah, it's great, it's wonderful, right? But yeah, the thing is with people that still think that Trump's going to come back is that how old would he be? 80 something, but then again, he is a boomer. After all, boomers will live. Boomers will boom.
Well, they will never die. I mean, I'm convinced that boomers are immortal.
Yeah, I mean the younger boomers are just entering their retirement age. Don't forget, so they're gonna try coasting this for as long as possible, right into the grave. And in a lot of ways, what that's doing is buying time for the rest of us.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's something to be said for boomers acquired, boomers accumulated knowledge and expertise. If they all just like disappeared, tomorrow, we'd be really fucked because we don't know how to do things, right? I mean, think about all the critical jobs, the aerospace engineers. How many millennial aerospace engineers are there? Or Gen X?
There's plenty OnlyFans though.
Yeah, but I'll tell you the answer. The answer is not enough.
I'm more frightened by the size of Amazon and how big they're getting.
It is disturbing. They should be broken up, but of course that won't happen.
By the fall of 2016, the share of online shoppers bypassing search engines and heading straight to Amazon had grown by 55%. Wow. So Amazon's like almost Google in a sense for just buying something, buying goods, cheap Chinese Lucky Lucks.
Yeah.
And then you have Whole Foods. And Whole Foods is a very nice store, I must say. It's a very nice store. Even though it employs trannies and other it's like the Starbucks of supermarkets, put it to you that way.
Yeah.
But they give cheap hot coffee, which is phenomenal. Blows Dunkin' Donuts out of the way.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
And the layouts of the store is something to be admired. I mean, they definitely hired the best of the best on how to do a whole floor plan to a supermarket. They do a very good job. So they've definitely perfected the market in a lot of different senses. But the problem is why it did a book, used book selling website, own fancy feast supermarkets in uppity Democratic strongholds. Yeah, I need my avocado toast. And it's organic, and I make a duty right here. It's so funny. Every
obsessed with that.
Because I see like there's like these young prissy little snow bunnies, right? And then as soon as they speak, the word "like" is flown out of their mouth. It's like 60 likes per minute. It's like the significance of the word "like" as if that is a Tourette of some sort.
Well, so either that or they have this kind of corporate ball buster monotone. you know, this I don't know how to explain it. I mean, think about like Elizabeth Holmes, you know, with that robotic voice.
Well, it's like a Valley Girl, which is now 30, 35, 40 years old, is just.
Well, it's different. The Valley Girl is different. The Valley Girl is like, you know, I'm talking about like women who want to be the opposite of that, right? So they try to mimic male intonations.
Let me hold off for one moment. The compulsive use of the word like conveys a disbelief in the objective reality of their surroundings. It blurs every boundary, retracts every assertion, and thus serves notice that the speaker is not to be held accountable for anything she says.
Right. I agree. Did you write that?
No, Christopher Lash did. That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Young women lack large frame references, so their problems are negligible or make-believe. They are so unreal that they can't put words together for it. They got tongue-tied. Like, be like. So, like, yeah, and then she got an OnlyFans, and I was like, sweet, yo, Brittany, bad idea. And I was like, wow. That was pretty good.
Very good.
Here's the thing: as a MGTOW man, as soon as you hear a woman speak like that, you just gotta she's zombified, gone. She's getting her 6th booster, and she's going out to the club.
got my vax, ready to party.
Yeah, you already know there's a filter.
She gets her free drink, her free martini with her vax.
Show your card, get a free martini.
Yeah. Show your vax card, get a free Negroni.
Avoid approach repetition, fear of emotional relationships. You know, and you know, you can't get there's no depth, there's no substance to the conversation with the average American woman. There's just nothing. It's this weird mirroring where, you know, you're just a soundboard. Yes, she's stupid. Okay, I love you. You're pretty. Insert yes. That bitch. I know. Meme. GIF. You know, the Snapchat filter. People are discarded at breathtaking speeds today. As the economy goes into overdrive before the meltdown, so do you as an individual. You're either a fucking neurotic hermit in the corner, rubbing your AR-15, or you're out there just living the dream. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
It's all about you. You got this. You're going out there. Take on the day. You know what the other thing I've noticed, and this is from my own personal observation. I'm like I'm constantly needing, like, I need like a shutdown day where I just tune everything out and just lay on the couch. And I never give myself those days because I always feel like I should be doing something. And I think a lot of that, and this is just my personal observation from my own point of reference, is that it's like I always have to be engaging in something, learning something, doing something. And every time I start doing all these little projects and scattering myself out, I never become an expert in a specific area. And I don't know whether that's because of everything that's been going on. Is it because the amount of people I see that are completely just brain dead, sheeple, where I'm like, I got to make sure I never be like them. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And the more you see more and more of these people grow as a certain segment of the population, it makes you want to be like go into this hyper masculine mode, I guess, this hyper driven. And then, but at the same time, you see other people, they're just super driven in a different area. So go into the gym. You got this. Work out. Go. You. It's like, it's like, one more. If you're on the go, if you want to do, it's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, this gym culture is, in a sense, it's part of this alienation and fragmentation process in America, right? Because like you didn't have
Perfection.
like
You're seeking
yeah,
perfection.
well, it's a narcissism.
Yeah.
It's a form of narcissism, and it's a form of alienation because I mean, you didn't have gym rats in America before, the 60s, for example. I mean, before the 80s, probably. Right? Like, you'd have guys who are into fitness, staying in shape, tough guys and stuff, but this is different. I mean, we're talking about a whole culture, a whole subculture of people that just, spend a lot of time in the gym.
It doesn't even necessarily have to be the gym. We can talk about people doing.
But it's the looks maxing. It's the the fucking supplements that they take, the skin care products that they use. I mean, American Psycho talks a lot about this. This narcissism, this obsession with one's appearance, getting Botox as a man. Mike Cernovich saying, "Oh yeah, men should get Botox before the wrinkles appear." It's just like, what the fuck, man? How about just live like a human being, eat healthy, exercise every day if you can, and stop worrying about your appearance like a woman.
I got one that already for one that I had written down. I forgot all about it. Modernity is that girl, a satire of capitalism and get rich quick culture. She is replete with the latest and greatest, ushering in an era of planned obsolescence, which corporate lucky is more than willing to provide.
Yes, exactly.
I think a large swath, and I'm including myself in this category, that men are being studious, avoidant, which gives off a wrong impression of being indolent, and I think I think that's prevalent in a lot of the manosphere. They hold back deep ambitions of energy. They hold back because they don't trust their own judgment, and they tend to shortchange their abilities. So instead of actually talking to a woman, they will write off the loss and say, "I can have it if I really want it," or say something like,
"Oh yeah,
it's knowing I can have it is enough satisfaction." That's something I heard, and even I've said that to myself. But at the same time, are you really? Well, you
don't know it. You don't know unless you actually try it, right? I mean, so it's ridiculous for people to say, "Oh, I know I could have it," and it's akin to like that Louis C.K. skit where he talks about the warm and fuzzy feeling that he gets when he imagines himself giving up his seat in first class for a disabled veteran. He's like, "Oh, I feel so good about myself because I'm the kind of person who would do that." Of course, he doesn't do it. He's just imagining it, right? It's like it's all in your own head, man. No, I know, but it's in your own head. If it's in your own head, it's not real. At least it's not real in the objective world. It might be, real, in theory.
That's a mental illness.
I think so. Well, no, I mean it's a human tendency that's exacerbated by this kind of by narcissism, by people's isolation today, by the preference for feeling over action. We have like a nation of Hamlets, just thinking, deliberating, not actually doing, right? You think about the preppers, and look, I'm all in favor of prepping, but far too many people are obsessed with these questions of planning. Trying to plan for every possible contingency. I'm sorry, man. You can't do that. Things are going to happen that are unexpected. You should be prepared for emergencies.
You're not living forever neither.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that again, it's in America, we kind of removed death from our culture. If you haven't noticed that, that's why we put not homeless. That's why we put the elderly in nursing homes, because we don't want to look at it. We want to be fit and beautiful forever.
That's right. 80 is the new 50.
In a lot of other countries, death is super important. Mexico, for example, You know, a lot of the
Yeah.
Southern European countries, Eastern European, Hungarians are super morbid people, and they're morbid because they've had nothing but hardships throughout their entire lives. You don't see Russian party culture now, do you? Right? You see it in the newer countries. You see it in South America. You
I don't know
see it
about
in Russia it's them playing with guns and getting drunk in front of a fucking a chicken stall.
Okay, in rural Russia, yeah, Moscow probably has a pretty good party scene. I don't know. I haven't been there.
Where again, those are the mega cities, though. I mean, you can't look at cosmopolitan as at least anymore. You can't use that as a barometer because of globalization. I mean, every city looks the same. I've talked about this in the past on this show. Is like, if I went to Bangkok, they have Coach, they have Pizza Hut, they have Louis Vuitton, they have the gay bar. It's kind of seen worldwide at this point, this monolithic style of a cityscape.
Yeah, and we as a culture studiously avoid questions of death and the afterlife. It's really quite strange when you think about it, because death is really the most important fact of life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. Good point.
I mean, the fact that life ends, that it's finite, it's mortal. What could be more important than that, right? And that's also what distinguishes it. One of the attributes that distinguishes us as humans is that we are aware of our mortality. Animals are not, right?
It's all about that grandiosity, kid. You know the drill. We're just popping bubbles here. You know what I'm saying? We just living the dream. Oh, if you had a rapper name, what would your rapper name be?
Foreign Devil.
Oh, that's good. I'll take that. You know what mine is?
Required no thought.
Young Quasi. Lil Whiny. Young Quaz. Young Queasy.
Young Queasy, okay.
That's a good one.
What is it? Is it recently vaxxed rapper?
I ain't about that vex, nigga. I ain't getting nothing. You come at me. We're talking straight gangster and shit. I'm saying hot dog.
You're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I'm fluent in ebonics.
Sorry, man.
Even black people are getting forced out of even black people getting chased out of neighborhoods. It's we're definitely in some type of a strange lull phase, which is uncomfortable. We've been this way for the past year. No one's at the helm. No one's controlling this shit. Yet the powers that being know exactly where they want to take us.
Do they? I don't know. I mean, probably, but maybe not.
You'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the goal. They have their eyes on that. And doesn't seem there's all that much we can do about it. I mean, on a macro level, there's really no hope for politics.
See, stock up. You stock up some shit. Hey, listen, regardless of whatever the outcome might be, can look at it this way. Can we all agree 2001 was a better year than 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. Most of us were alive in 2001. I know I was. I'm sure you were too. Right? We can honestly say 2001 was far better. Sure, it had its problems, but can we say that 2041 is going to be better than 2021? And look at where we are in 2021. So the projection is downwards.
Mm-hmm.
Downwards, and as you go downwards, bad things start to happen.
Yeah. I think the sense of time is getting compressed or distorted somehow.
You talking about time?
I'm talking about, since this madness began in March of last year, all right, we're almost 2 years into this. Well, 2 years is a very significant chunk of most people's lives, right? And things only seem to be getting worse, but it's incremental. It's bit by bit. The blogger Francis Berger had a great post about this. He called it the salami slicing strategy.
Tell me about it. It sounds good.
Well, I can read a bit from it. He quotes a philosopher, I guess, who discusses this. And this is a great metaphor. The American economist Thomas Schelling said, salami tactics were invented by a child. Tell a child not to go in the water and he'll sit on the bank and submerge his bare feet. He is not yet in the water. Acquiesce and he'll stand up. No more of him is in the water than before. Think it over and he'll start wading, not going any deeper. Take a moment to decide whether this is different and he'll go a little deeper, arguing that since he goes back and forth, it all averages out. Pretty soon we are calling to him not to swim out of sight, wondering whatever happened to all our discipline. So his commentary on this, the bulk of the fake birdemic response, he calls COVID the birdemic. Oh, it's a long story. The bulk of the measures implemented since 2020 have been a masterclass in salami slicing. It's just 2 weeks. It's just a mask. It's just a peck, etc. So he is an American living in Hungary, and his employers have begun using salami slicing against him to manipulate him into getting the jab. Anyway, I was just reflecting on this because, you know, what I was telling you earlier, like, we're almost 20 months into this and there's no sign of it ending, and there's all these crazy travel restrictions. I think the travel restrictions are the scariest part.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
You know, because that's something we used to take for granted is the right to, as an American, you can basically go anywhere you want, with or without. I mean, some places require a visa, other places don't. You get a visa upon arrival. But as an American with a US passport, you can pretty much go anywhere. And then, of course, the right to leave your own country is absolute. That's a human right. Your country can't stop you from leaving unless you're a criminal or something and you're wanted. But Canada has effectively done that. Of course, it's deniable because, you know, they're not actually saying you can't leave Canada. What they're saying is you can't board a plane. And if you try to drive over the border to the US, well, sorry, the US won't let you in. So effectively, you can't leave. You know, they're turning the world into a series of prisons, right? That's the salami slicing, you know, and at the beginning, we all thought it would just be 2 weeks. You know, 2 weeks of staying home. Oh, that's no biggie. But they dangle this promise of a return to normalcy to get you to comply with each new measure.
I'm sick of talking. Listen, the COVID thing is.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know it's important. It definitely is. But no matter what, either way you look, COVID is that monster in the closet jerking off, watching you, ready to pounce and fucking start molesting and killing you. Okay,
Yikes.
That's really where it's at right now. Okay, the government's beating off in the corner with people that really want to see the death and destruction of the world, and they also want to wall themselves off from the masses, and that's something that has been going on for thousands upon thousands a year. The leaders always want to shield themselves from the masses. Listen, they called you deplorables. What are some of the other things that Hillary Clinton called them?
A basket of deplorables.
Yeah, thank you. It was. That's what they think of you.
It's actually a very funny statement. They do.
She's not an idiot. She knows what she said.
Well, she gave a whole speech about it, and actually that speech was hilarious because it was basically her entire speech was about Pepe the Frog, you know, and these online memes and stuff. And do you remember somebody shouted during her speech?
No.
Yeah, they interrupted her and they said, Pepe!
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, look at this article I found here. I've had buried in my some of my stash. I'm cleaning out some of the old articles I had here. All right, this is in June of 2019. I saved this again for doing a show with Ali and never got around to this article. Edmunds warns of tough 2019 for U.S. auto industry as sales slide for a second time since Great Recession and profits shrink. Now, mind you, this is 2019. What did COVID do to the car industry?
Yeah, wrecked it. I mean,
Wrecked it.
Because of parts, right? The availability of microchips for the engine control chips and other parts. There's like thousands of parts that are needed in a car, right? And many of those parts, are only made by like one factory in China. So that factory shuts down, you can't make any cars. And so there's there's a lot of bottlenecks in the supply chain there. And then what happened to the rental car industry? Didn't that blow up somehow?
Yeah, you can't get your hands on a decent rental anymore. I think that they sold them off. A lot of them probably just sold off the cars.
That's what I recall.
Hertz went bankrupt, and I guess what do you do? Not consolidate, but restructure the business now.
Yeah.
The U.S. auto market hit a record for new cars with 17.5 million in 2015. Following year, it dipped, rebounded in 2018. 2019 took about a million less cars sold, and they were expecting 15.1 million sold in 2021. Let's see how accurate that was. Cars sold in 2021. Obviously, the year is not over, but you have a pretty good idea on where its numbers lie by November. Cars sold in U.S. 2021. Oh my God, way less. Wait, hold on. Okay, there in 2019, the projection by Edmunds, and Edmunds is no joke. I mean, there are car reviewers. This is from CNBC, this article here. Okay, so in 2021, the projection was 15.1 million cars to be sold in 2021. Let me ask you, how many you think were sold in 2021?
How many cars were sold in 2021?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Take a guess, man.
Total cars sold in America in 2021.
So far. Yeah. Don't you Google it. Come on, man.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking 6 million.
Is closer to 12.
Okay.
And then, mind you, the high was in 2015, which was 17.5.
Okay.
So 2015 was 17.5. Now it's at 11. A little under 11. And it'll probably finish up the year by 12 and change.
So it's been on the decline since 2015.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Now, there's a theory that, basically like everything peaked around 2015 and it's just been downhill since then because of energy shortages, and that COVID covered that up, right? Because people just stopped consuming, they stopped traveling, they stopped going to hotels, they stopped, everything, right? And so the problems with energy production were effectively concealed by the sharp decline in consumer demand. I find that kind of interesting. And then as the world begins to ramp up again, right? So we're trying to get back to the economic normal pre-COVID. The problem is now we're running into those energy limitations. And of course, it doesn't help that, we have an administration that's shutting down pipelines and, pursuing the
fucking Brave New World, Green New Deal, whatever it's called.
Well, this is
COP26.
here's
all this
another
climate
one.
change.
We know about what's been going on in California regarding Walgreens closing up stores, right?
Yes, because of shoplifting.
Yeah, right.
Although that's a conspiracy theory, I hear.
Oh, clearly, it's just it must be racist.
Hey, the Democrats are the real racists.
Real severe rat infestation closes Walgreens location.
Oh, rats. Okay, well that's better.
Grazed by bullet at Walgreens. Okay, well it's not showing. I did see a article on Walgreens taking big hits because of what is it? Article 48, Proposition 48. So they decriminalized acting a fool. It's
Well, isn't it like all shoplifting? All
right. Yeah,
up to
exactly.
$800 or something.
So this article I have from August 7th, 2019, Walgreens will close about 200 stores in the United States. So Walgreens was already in trouble prior to Coof.
Yes.
After
Well, I remember.
wait, I got it. After buying roughly half of Rite Aid stores 2 years ago, Walgreens expanded its America's footprint to more than 9,500 stores. The planned closures represent less than 3% of all Walgreens locations.
Mhm.
But again,
Oh,
why are you taking a hit?
Yeah. I mean, COVID, right? So I mean, there were all these kinds of retail chains that were struggling before COVID because brick and mortar retail is being replaced by online shopping, basically. And COVID just kind of shut everybody down, right? Except for the so-called essential retailers. But people just stopped going to stores. And so the chains that were in trouble before COVID, a lot of them have since folded. And the Amazon.
I'm looking at this. I'm looking at their stock prices, and around the time this article, let's see, June 7th, 2019. This article is when August. Yeah. So basically, they took a huge hit on their shares after they announced this 200 store closing, and then COVID hit, and their stock ticker is not doing so well, which I find it very interesting. For me, I find it interesting because again, anything brick and mortar is kind of in trouble. Looks like it's hitting resistance at $50 a share, and if I go to the max, the peak was around the time they purchased CVS, and it was $95 a share. So now it's down to 50, and it's in a trading pattern. We already know that these markets are kind of all fucked up, but at the same time, we see what's happening in the retail commercial sector of the United States, and it's not so good. I just found a really good YouTube channel, this Louis Rossman guy. He's a computer repairman in Manhattan, and he's got over 1 million views, and he's a straight shooter. He doesn't very not politically correct. He doesn't give a shit, which is really cool. And he's been doing videos on what's been going on around in his neighborhood, and he shows you all the empty retail spots around New York City. Corner stores are kind of like the most prime real estate in New York City, and there's just dozens of them empty, and their asking prices are ridiculous. Go on.
Yeah, no, weren't you telling me about that podcaster who was doing a tour through his neighborhood in New York?
It was the Louis Rossman guy.
Yeah. I forgot to look at it.
Oh, it's horrifying. You have stop work orders that are from like a year ago, 2 years ago. Permits expired from months ago. It's like a lot of people just straight up abandoned halfway through. So for example, what I noticed in the videos, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys to check out. is that I guess COVID hit and the people that were just opening businesses, renovating their locations, they all just packed up and left. So if there was a lease expiring, either what the landlord tends to do now and is sometimes the landlord does the renovation for the person that's moving in. So if COVID hit, that person is going to want to pull back and not do anything and not invest any more money in commercial real estate because of the general uncertainty in the market. And uncertainty is not good for the market when you're in a situation like this, the decline, basically, because you start thinking like a third worlder, and you can attest to this, is that your mind shifts to safety. Your mind shifts to this reptilian logic where, okay, I'm not going to spend any money. I'm going to hold on to everything I got. I don't know what's going to happen with the economy. And you just hunker down, so to speak, and you don't really necessarily go out and want to take a chance on buying a huge ticket item. So that tends to start it starts a compounding snowballing effect where the money velocity and you wanting to go out and take a vacation and stuff because, oh, what if there's another lockdown, right?
Mhm.
What if I lose my job?
Well,
Right?
it makes business planning a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, because especially if you're a business that is liable to be shut down, in another panic, right? I mean, if you're an online business or something, that's different. But if you're a brick and mortar store, if you're a restaurant, if you're a hair salon, if you're anything like that, I mean, you'd have to be insane to start a business like that in a blue city or blue state because you just don't know when you're going to be shut down again.
Right, especially what if Aunt Quifa comes again?
Yeah, and then I mean, even larger. I mean, think about like the movie theater industry, right? The cinemas. How many people go to the movies anymore? It's way, way down.
Yeah, they killed. It's all deliberate. I'm also running a new theory. Two theories, and one of them I posted in the chat with Tom. Okay, this is kind of off topic, but and it kind of coincides. The next one I'll tell you kind of goes with what we've been talking about. The sign language interpreter, the interpreter on TV. Can't you stick that in the corner? Right? Can't the government tell have the broadcasters do it, stick it in the corner somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is it necessary to have the interpreter right up against a politician throwing all these fucking hand signals around? Really? Look over here. Look at my fingers. Look at my face and look how animated I am. And you have this you have this mime next to the fucking politicians, and the politicians saying, "Yeah, we're taking your rights away. We're here to enslave you. Bow down to fucking Moloch." Right? Meanwhile, this person with this animated face, like smiling, right? And then sad, and dude, it's like, and everyone's focusing on that fucking, and it's always like a black lady. Right? It's always like an LGBT person with a crew cut. It's always a fucking clown throwing up the hand signals all the time. Right?
It's almost like a medieval, it's like a court jester.
Right? It is a court jester. It's a Harlequin.
Like the fool in Shakespeare's plays. The king always has a fool. And the fool has a little, cap with a bell on top, and he's cracking jokes and stuff.
It was a Harlequin, right?
Harlequin, yeah.
Harlequin, yeah. That's what. Yeah, but a Harlequin in a suit. It's an organ grinder. The fucking the mayor. Yeah. The bureaucrats, the organ grinder, and then the Harlequin just smiling, and now it's sad and thrown up. And no, it's not. That's not what's gonna happen. You like also kind of like in a condescending form to the deaf. Like, yes, you're using sign language. I understand. You don't have to make all these funny faces when I'm trying to read your fucking hand signals. You see what I'm saying?
Now, but the deaf people that we argued with were saying no, that's part of it. That's actually part of the
expression, the expressiveness and the intonation of sign language is that, you know, people make these faces and they have these elaborate gestures. It's like when you
I don't know the dog and then go there, but I didn't get the.
oh jeez. Oh dear.
I just want my cookies and my chip. Oh my god! So wait, so that's one. The second thing is, all right, how many robocalls you get in a day?
I usually get one, but it's every day.
Okay, and so I get between 1 to 4 a day. All right, and I'm thinking that's a psyop. Psyop. Let me explain to you why. Okay, it's to scare you not to answering the phone. You just don't want to talk to anybody.
Interesting.
It's like I don't want to answer the phone.
Well, it really has destroyed the functionality of the phone.
Correct. They don't want you talking. They don't want you answering the phone. I have a story that came out recently. My mom brought it to my attention, of all people, because my mom is very anti-advertisements, anti-being bothered. She remember her telling me as a kid to mute all commercials. And she always said that every time a commercial came on, like in between the show, mute every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
Right? And basically these telephone so my mom broke the story to me that someone was lost in the woods in the national forest, okay, and he had his cell phone on him, and the fucking police or the rescuers were calling his cell phone, and he didn't pick up the phone. You want to know why? He didn't want to waste the battery. He thought it was someone who he thought it was a telemarketer or a scam or whatever.
It's crazy.
Robocall. So at the point where this is actually, this is affecting people's psychology. I know it's affecting my psychology. When my ex-girlfriend, Cambodian, and like all Cambodians, if you don't pick up the phone, they'll call you about 30 times in a row. Boom, 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 30, boom, constant. Like until you answer that phone, which is. Again,
I think it must have been interesting, to be around when the phone was first invented or, popularized, commercialized, because it's such a weird concept, right? I mean, you're let's say you're entertaining guests, right? And then the phone rings. Well, of course, back then you had to answer the phone. You always answer the phone, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right.
You can't not answer the phone. So you have to interrupt the person who's talking. You have to stop whatever you're doing, go answer that phone, right? So it already created this kind of,
conditioning,
this conditioning, this disruption to one's life, and then cell phones, greatly accelerated that because now you're carrying it around wherever you go. So you're never truly alone with somebody else because you both have a cell phone. It's liable to ring at any time, or you can call somebody else on it if you get bored. But then what we saw with mobile internet is that people stopped using the phone for calling, and now they use it for texting. And most people prefer texting, not everybody, but they prefer the most kind of depersonalized form of communication possible, right? Like I don't like to call people. I mean, I do, if I'm trying to solve problems, it's the best way, right? But I almost get a little bit nervous, talking to people I haven't spoken to for a long time because it's very up close and personal, and it's embarrassing sometimes and awkward. And, people today, especially the Zoomers, right? And here I sound like an old man, but they try to avoid that at all costs. And so they prefer texting, and, they prefer this kind of asynchronous communication where I send you a message and you respond a few minutes later, maybe an hour later, right? And it basically you respond at your leisure so that you fully control the interaction. You fully control your emotional expressions to the other person. You're not exposing any of your vulnerabilities. You're not putting yourself in any kind of awkward position because, you respond when you want to in a very one-dimensional form, which is, by text. So none of your actual personality comes through in that, and sadly, that's what people prefer now. And I think the technology sort of allows us to indulge our social awkwardness that way. So ironically, even though we carry around phones all the time, we're probably more isolated from each other than ever. I mean, most people that I know, I haven't talked to for years. You know, like I've like a small group of people that I talk to regularly, and then everybody else just like, all right. And it's not because I don't like them or I don't want to talk to them, but I mean, you know, we're sort of spread out geographically. And then, you know, people are on social media. Maybe I follow them and they follow me, maybe not. But there's this massive inertia when it comes to actually picking up the fucking phone and calling someone. You know, it's just something I don't want to do. And neither do they. So we end up not talking.
Yeah.
I mean, and really that's why we have like holidays and stuff. That's why we used to have a structure for these things, because, you know, people naturally aren't very good at that stuff. They need to be told what to do, right? It's like, okay, this is the day during the year where we all meet and we eat a turkey together, you know? And it seems silly, but we do that because, you know, that's how you get the family together. And if you don't have that obligation anymore and that ritual, well, guess what? Half the time you're not going to do it. And then years go by and you think, well, how come I never met my cousin all this time? You know, what was I doing the last 5 years that I couldn't see my cousin? And you have regret, right? Whereas I almost never have regret about the time I spend with other people. It's an interesting thing. I don't regret the time I spend with others.
Where do we go from here?
It's like the trailer to, you know, it's The Breakfast Club. You know that movie? I forget what it was. No, was it The Breakfast Club?
I did not enjoy that movie.
I don't know that I've actually seen it all the way through, but that was one, and like one of the Gen X movies, and then the other one was like St. Elmo's Fire with Demi Moore, I think.
I know the song. I don't know the movie.
Yeah,
but
if
you know a lot of these obscure movies, man.
Oh, I'm like KNG here. But she's in the trailer. She says something like, you know, we had our ups and downs. You know, sometimes we fought and we hated each other, but we were always together. You know, and it's like just these scenes. I don't even know what the movie's about. I think it's just, you know, it's kind of a coming of age drama from the 80s. But it's like this group of friends. They're just always fucking together. You know, you think of it. I mean, how many people are like always with their friends today, right? I don't know. Maybe they are. But then I see people with their friends and everybody's on their phones. So they're sitting in the same room together, but they're all kind of in their own separate realities, mediated by the phone, right?
I just think that, again, going back to what I initially stated, is that they're deliberately making your life miserable just using the phone and trying to talk to people.
I think so.
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary.
Well, who's responsible?
So you could roll out a vaccine in, you know, Operation Warp Speed. Can't fucking stop people from, you know, mass prank calling and robocalling Americans.
Oh, it's so easy to do so. I mean, all you have to do is require that people. You can't call from a number that you don't own. Right. The reason these robocallers are able to keep calling you day after day after day is because they keep switching the number. But they don't actually own those numbers, right? So you can't block them. You block one number, they call from a different number. It's like whack-a-mole. They don't own those numbers. So if you require them, so if I have an office with like 4 phone numbers, right? If I own those numbers, that's fine. I can call from any number I want. But what these robocallers are doing is, you know, they have like hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of numbers that they're calling from, which is how they evade the block. All you have to do is ban that. And the phone companies can do it, the telecom carriers, but they don't, probably because it'll cost more money or something. And the government doesn't require it. So very simple things that we should be able to do, that we are able to do,
that would greatly benefit the American consumer, that everybody would support. We don't do that. Instead, we do all this crazy arbitrary shit that nobody likes. You know, again, another sign of dysfunction and decline.
All downhill from here. Yeah, I'm more curious about like people that are already struggling, like what's their next modus operandi and what they're planning to do. Because, you know, it's real all sweet and easy, you know, working at the farmer's co-op and, you know, having a little take a book, leave a book at, you know, your street corner. But that's all going to fucking change. I mean, a lot of people are just in delusion on just what people start doing and taking advantage of a high trust society.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the people who are already on the edge.
Well, think about it. They're all stealing catalytic converters. Well, catalytic converters appeared on cars thanks to the fucking environmentalist, right? And it's got very expensive precious metals in it to make sure you don't have smog and soot, and you want to have clean, fresh air, because somehow a busted muffler would cause a bunch of problems. So the catalytic converter is, you know, very important for car inspections. Okay, so the catalytic converter gets stolen and you fail your car inspection. You can't get it registered. You know, again, you're now more in the criminal territory of things, and things just, you know, start to compound on one another because you had the catalytic converter because your country is very prosperous. And, you know, people all had jobs, so they would never resort to stealing a catalytic converter. Well, now they are, right? So what are you going to keep going along with this green agenda bullshit with your fucking sustainable fucking turds? And, you know, we're going to be bugmen and, you know, you know, riding a scooter to work, and, you know, and you have your AirPods, and, you know, you got your fucking fancy little coat, not couch, a fancy little coat. You know, you know, it's that stereotype. Again, it's that nuanced stereotype. I'm working off my MacBook, traveling, doing my own thing, 1099. I don't need much. This is all I need. And you just take a bunch of fucking selfies, and you cry. You cry alone every night.
Good things come in small packages. I was reading an interesting blog by a Portuguese woman who immigrated to the U.S. And she was talking about how, like, back in the 70s, there was some kind of trouble, and the bakers went on strike. And it was a big shock to people because suddenly, you know, they didn't have their fresh bread delivered to their door every morning. So their daily routine was disrupted, and people had to start baking their own bread, which they had not done since like the Roman times. It was a very weird thing. And her comment was that she thinks Americans will do all right because we're so adaptive and creative. And one of the points she made is that, like, Americans all have hobbies. We take them very seriously. And she said, it's kind of shocking to me as a European to see how obsessed Americans are with their hobbies. It's like too much.
Yeah.
You know?
It's out of control.
You know, but that'll save us. You know, because if there's a crisis and the need arises for some new thing or some new way of doing stuff, then we're going to figure it out. And I don't know. I have some confidence.
We be doing it big.
Yeah.
We got a Travis Scott and we got a Carpenter.
I mean, exactly. You know.
No, I think there's too many useless fucking eaters.
Well, so they're screwed.
There's at least 20 to 60 million of them. Easily.
Yes.
Easily.
This is true. I mean, 60 million would be about 20% of the population. So I think that's.
Oh yeah, that's accurate.
About right.
Travis Scott listeners, more importantly. That's the thing. So your people that are intelligent aren't breeding. It's an idiocracy. I mean, I saw that when I saw the movie. I was like, yeah, that seems about accurate.
Yeah, I think so. And the immigration, the uncontrolled, nonstop immigration is an ongoing factor.
Here we go. These chains have announced a ton of store closings in 2019. Let's get started. Target. I remember them when they got their shit shoved in during the fucking rioting in Minnesota. The company is closing half a dozen by February of 2020. Oh my God. And it's become an annual thing. The retailer shuttered 13 stores in February of 2018 and a dozen a year earlier. That's really bad. Oh my God, you're losing 12 stores a year. That's a store a month.
I don't know that's, well, no, isn't it 12 a month?
The retailer shuttered 13 in February 2018 alone, and a dozen a year earlier.
Okay, all right. Well, right. So it sounds like they're losing a dozen per month.
Lord and Taylor. I never liked Lord and Taylor. Lord and Taylor is closing its iconic flagship store, New York's Fifth Avenue, before the end of 2018. Company plans to put several more of its department stores out of business in the new year. New York Stores has stood for more than 100 years and was the first place animated displays in the store windows at Christmas time. Okay. Meanwhile, Lord and Taylor is hoping their survival will come through a unique partnership with Walmart. Lord and Taylor's site within Walmart's website will feature over 125 upscale brands. Again, I just went to Macy's. I found Macy's to be just as good. So, JCPenney's is pretty. JCPenney's is a really good store too. I don't understand why it gets so much heat. They have some really nice stuff that you can get your hands on. Clothing's clothing. I'm done. I have enough clothes to last me for the rest of my life, which is good.
Sure.
You know, I haven't bought a shirt or anything like that in a few years. Herney Bendel store. I don't even know what that is. It's a handbag store. After 120th years in the business, the luxury chain has announced it will be closing its doors in January 2019, again, including its flagship location on New York's Fifth Avenue. Well, New York's Madison Avenue getting slammed. I did a chat with this one guy out of California. I never bothered uploading it. Met him in Tom's chat, and he lived in Beverly Hills, and he told me all those iconic places that you see on like old, American TV shows and sitcoms. That's all just heroin addicts and fucking homeless people.
Yeah. Well, the trashing of America's great cities is really a tragedy. I mean, we were talking a bit about this before with like housing prices. I mean, okay, so housing is out of control. If you're a young person, let's say you're, kind of at the beginning of your career, you're thinking about buying a house. Where do you go, right? So there are parts of America urban America, where you can buy a house for like 130 grand. So your mortgage payment is less than $700 a month, right? Which is equal to or less than rent in that same city. And it could be a nice house, right? It could be a newly renovated house, but the problem is the neighborhood is extremely dangerous.
You will get shot. I know you keep looking at properties in Wakanda.
Well,
you should stop.
Yeah, no, exactly. Wakanda as the Z-Man.
Like,
say,
it's a brick house. It's a brick house for $125,000.
What's the catch? Well, since you're not allowed to ask about race, what people will do when they're shopping for houses, they'll say, how's the basketball team?
No, that's not what we use. The lingo is if someone asks, what's like the demographics, they go to a bus stop. Go to bus stops. That'll tell you the future of where you're moving into.
Right. Or better yet, does it have a bus stop?
You definitely live in a life on the wild side. That's for sure. That guy James LaFont, who Myth of the 20th Century had on, he lives in Baltimore, and he's just a urban combat kind of a guy. You know, really interesting chats he does with Myth, and he talks about what it's like living amongst what you gonna do? You gonna act the code.
Hey, you got to know how to speak to the brothers.
I mean, shit.
I was
in Allentown, and I just picked the cheapest hotel, and I didn't really know the demographics of Allentown. I didn't know very little about it. And the hotel I was in was a crack den. It was so dirty, so disgusting.
Yeah.
She said they only had one room, and the one room, I guess, was probably dude, it smelled so bad, and I couldn't get any sleep because the people in the room next to me were just fighting for about 6 hours straight up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It was one of the worst experiences of my life.
Oh, you were actually there until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you moved?
Yeah, I just stayed the one night. I already paid. They wouldn't give me back the money.
Oh, I see. That's hideous. Was this a chain hotel?
Oh, hang on. Where's my? I'll give you guys. You guys can look it up. It is something Knights Hotel. Let me.
I remember back in Chicago, they had the Hotel for Men.
Oh, that sounds nice.
I'm sure it was lovely.
Yeah, then I changed it to a Hilton, which was fantastic. Very nice hotel. The Hilton in Allentown is a beautiful hotel. Strongly. Where is this? Dude, it was bad where I stayed. Oh, there we go. There's the red roof. Yeah, Nights Inn with a K. And it had a 303 reviews, got 2.8. Let's read some of the reviews.
I'm surprised it was that high.
Oh, there's so many. 40% are 1 stars. Heat didn't work, didn't know it till 10, went to bed next day. Manager wanted to move me, was afraid to get COVID, told him he blamed me for not checking in the next day. Showed him bed bug bites. He refused to refund me.
Nice.
Believe the bad reviews. This is among the worst hotel experiences we ever had. Yeah, that's the least of it. Everything mentioned in the bad reviews is true. Yeah, the carpet's really bad, filthy carpets. There's barely any housekeeping. If I could rate this a 0, I would. Absolutely disgusting. Looked like dry blood on the mattress.
Well, that's nice.
To be honest with you, it's shocked that the government hasn't shut it down. Like, it's that bad.
Yeah.
Bathroom floor looks like it hadn't been swept in a week.
Oh, jeez.
Peeling paint, dirt. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it sounds like the biggest problem, though, was just the other people.
Oh, dude, it was bad. This place was disgusting. There were stains and hair on the sheets. What's the worst hotel experience you ever had?
Man,
I'm sure you got some, son.
I don't know. I try to avoid really shitty hotels. I think I stayed overnight at a hostel in Manhattan once, in like Harlem. I was visiting some girl who was staying with a friend of hers, and they had a pretty nice room. I guess they didn't want to let me sleep with them in their room. And, we were like out late, and then I was planning to see them again the next day. So I'll just stay overnight. So I stayed in this hostel, and I guess it was like a bunk bed scenario. And I might have, just by chance, I had that room to myself that night, but it was a pretty skeevy place. Don't stay at a hostel in your own country. Words of the wise.
Airbnbs, just the concept of Airbnb disgusts me.
Oh, I have no interest in Airbnb.
So gross.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's more gross than a hotel.
You want to sleep in someone else's house?
No.
Exactly. With someone you don't know, like you don't know this person. You don't know who was in last week. It's fucking gross as shit, man. I'll tell you another. At least with hotels, I mean, the housekeepers that when they get paid, they do a really good job, and the unionized ones are even better.
Yeah, well, they're professionals. I mean,
right? Is the Airbnb being cleaned by a professional? No,
it's the same objection. Excuse me, I have to Uber. So basically, it's just high-tech hitchhiking. You're simply
a hobo.
You're a hobo, and some random person is driving you. This person is not a licensed. I mean, they're not a professional driver. They don't necessarily know how to navigate, right? Like, why would you do that? I mean, it's the same thing as hitchhiking, except mediated by an app. I mean, if you want the job done right, I think you have to find a professional. I mean, I don't shine my own shoes, I have a shoe shiner do.
Some of these Airbnbs are big money, aren't they? There's expensive.
Probably.
The prices range. It's a.
Well, there's some people who kind of do it as a business, and they do it well, and they make good money, and they get lots of positive reviews. I mean, I wouldn't object all that much to that kind of thing. I just, again, I prefer the hotel experience. I prefer checking in and being able to walk in and out with my key card, and the hotel has all the facilities, that I want usually. Helpful concierge, 24 hours. Airbnb is so strange to me. You're paying somebody to use their house. I don't know. That doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, they're
going to bend over backwards to be neat. That's the other thing.
They're going to shut us
because you're in
down.
their house.
I'm looking at our Oracle. They're going to shut us down.
Who's going to shut us down?
They're going to do a coof round too.
Oh yeah. Well, wait for things to start.
I will say this: it'll get a little spicy if they try shutting us down a second time around.
Yeah. Another lockdown. Well, maybe they'll try doing what they did last winter. Sort of a partial, half-hearted shutdown. I think the vaccine mandates are where all the action is right now. But
it's falling apart. I don't see it really. Show me the dead. If anyone's got it, you can't declare an emergency when there's no emergency. I don't understand why the judges or anyone say you can't just start declaring emergencies for nothing.
Well, you can start. The problem is, who's going to end them? But we're way past the point of logic and fact. Now it's a question of the elites doubling down. Look, Singapore, 85% of the population is jabbed, including children. 85% of everyone is jabbed. And their cases and deaths are higher than ever before.
Airbnb it to work, dude.
The jabs don't work. Starting in mid-December, deaths are going to ramp up, attributed to COVID. And the elites are going to freak out again. And they're going to try another lockdown or something.
Well, going back to this here.
Hmm.
Sears closing up. We knew that. I knew Sears was going under for a while. Funny how Sears could have been Amazon, yet they never adapted to the times, which is very unfortunate. Sears could have been Amazon easily, and they failed on all
Okay.
levels. Because Sears did the catalogs. Remember, you could order from a
Sure.
catalog. So move the catalog online. You didn't do that, and you blow it.
Interesting.
Lowe's is closing stores. That's a new one to me. Cutting 20 stores in the U.S. and 31 in Canada. Again, this is an old article, guys. So we're taking a look here at some of the problems the economy we're having pre-coup. I think it's important for us to look back at that because a lot of people, if it just goes back to 2019. It'll come back. It'll go back to 2000. No, going back to 2019, we were already in bad shape, and a lot of people don't seem to really listen. And you were on my show in 2019, and me and Ian covered the economic situation in the U.S. Time and again. So I saved this back when I was still doing shows with IM because I wanted to cover them at some point. And it's interesting looking back at my old show notes about how bad the situation was just a few years ago. Here we got Destination Maternity closing. That's expected. Come on. Open a dog store instead, damn it. Children's Place, Starbucks is always closing stores. 150 stores closed. And I'm sure they closed a lot in Manhattan. God only knows how many Starbucks went under. Banana Republic and Gap, they kind of never got with the times. So anyway, those are just some of the popular stores that we're all too familiar with having some type of, I guess you're not making money. Retail, the overhead on retail is overhead on just renting a space, electricity, staff, et cetera, and you can just move it all online or just say, fuck it, I'm just going to go on welfare and buy things off Amazon. Why not? That's what a lot of people are doing. What's the sense of me actually working when my salary, my annual salary, can't even keep up with the inflation in housing if I wanted to buy a house? So if your house is 500,000 and it inflated to 540 and you make $40,000 annually, that's it. It's over. You're not gonna work that hard. One of your main ambitions is to buy your own place. But if you've taken that ambition away, no one's gonna want to fucking do shit. They become porn addicted hermits eating a hot pocket. They have no real drive to meet the other, and now you're sitting home basking in all of its glory. A bloated sea manatee fucking on the couch with a semi. Really, the dog's looking at you like you're a fucking disgusting sack of gas. A meat bag on a leathery couch, getting stuck to it.
Lumbering.
Mega.
You die in that position, you bloated corpse with your hand in your fucking pants.
There you go. What a depressing end.
The paramedics walk in. Oh yeah, smack my ass. Just a porn on repeat.
Well, then she'll take a selfie and post that on fucking.
There's fucking
TikTok.
pizza. There's pizza crust on the coffee table.
Just to take a selfie with the victim, and then
That's so Southeast Asian of you.
Well, it's America too now.
Let's see what else I got here, and we'll kind of wrap up the night. Oh no, here's a boom cock. This is from Elizabeth Warren. Remember Elizabeth Warren?
Vaguely.
This is great.
She was such a phony.
Oh, she's terrible. It wasn't until marriage equality became law that gay and lesbian couples could jointly file tax returns. So they paid more in taxes. Our government owes them more than our 50 million for the years our discriminating tax code left them without. We must right these wrongs.
Oh, so a transfer payment
To lesbian
gays?
couples, yeah.
Yeah, okay. How about no?
Well, what is it? 450,000 for illegals.
Hmm.
So basically, the cheapening of the money is so cheap now. We're just gonna give it to fucking stumpy Mexicans, so they can run back to Mexico, which I think is part of the plan. Is that they're
Yes.
erasing the border between Mexico and the U.S.
Agreed.
That's exactly what's happening. And people are going to start taking the law into their own hands. I think that'll be the first area it pops off. I remember
Disavow.
Well, I didn't say anything bad.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I got a story for you. You'll dig this one. So my boy lived in like a really bad Hispanic neighborhood. He was like one of the holdouts. And he's just surrounded by MS-13 gang members, just gun shootings all the time. It's really dangerous in the area. I do know it. I know it quite well. It's on Long Island. And he heard his neighbor screaming one night. It's this fucking old lady. And he runs over to see this fucking Hispanic dude trying to rape like an 80-year-old woman, right? Rips him off and just beats him to the state of unconsciousness, calls the police, right? And the police let the guy go, right? Lets the guy who's going to rape the 80-year-old who broke into the house go. My friend goes ballistic. What do you mean you're letting him go? And the sergeant showed up and pulled him aside about, why they let him go. Well, listen, you have to realize that, that even if we put him in jail, he has no ID. He doesn't belong here. He's just a wandering nomad. He's like a feral human being. That's what it was. A feral human being. The cops let go with rabies. Okay. And my friend wouldn't let it go. And the cops told him, hey, listen, if you don't stop, we're going to arrest you instead. That's America.
Oh, yeah. It's shocking, yet somehow not surprising.
Not surprising. So what does that make the average dude want to do? Well, we're going to regress. We're going to return to the familiar. We're going to stay inside, eat Hot Pockets, have an aneurysm on the couch while watching a porno, and the paramedic finds you in a sad state of affairs. Well, looks like another one.
Yeah. Bring out your dead.
All right. Well, listen, I don't even know how long we've been on, but we'll end it there. When did we start? 11:30?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm getting pretty sleepy, so maybe we'll call it a night. But it was good to chat, and I guess try to keep your spirits up with I don't know, something.
As I like koofing.
As I like koofing.
All right, man. Well, listen, thanks again. As always,
Yeah.
Frank Burton. Where can they find you at?
At Expat Aftermath.
That's right, baby.
On Twitter.
Don't you forget it. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya. Bye.
I'll end it. Yeah.